أنتم الذين بالمسيح تمتم المسيح قد لبستم Hallelujah. I'm going to share something with you today. I'm the chairman of the Antiochian Heritage Foundation, something that we started a few years ago. In the past, this was a vehicle in order to raise funds for the Antiochian village and for youth programs and so forth. When I retired in 2015, which seemed impossible, how could I retire? I started, with the blessings of the Archbishop, to work on a project called the Honor Wall, lest we forget. Now, what is this about? I have to talk about it because people have some misconception about what this is all about. We have a very rich history. When you think about how the church came to North America from the Middle East, in our case from the Antiochian church, they came from Syria, Palestine, and Lebanon, and Egypt. At the turn of the century, when they came, what did they bring with them but their faith? Their hands were empty. They started their lives peddling, selling strings and linen and shoelaces and all kinds of gadgets that they could pick up along the way and go to the countryside and sell. But one thing they had that was indelible was their Orthodox faith. And wherever they landed, they immediately started little churches, sometimes in the homes. Well, mostly in homes. Saint Raphael Hallowini celebrated probably more liturgy in homes than he did in churches and cathedrals when he traveled all over North America, visiting the faithful wherever they may be. Well, I call these, for me, these men are real, these people were heroes. Even I think of my own dad, who came here at 9 years old. Couldn't go to school because he was too tall. He was already 6 foot tall. They put him in kindergarten, and he lasted, I think, a day. And he went to work. And all of our old timers that came to this country in the early years were not shy to go out there and work. There was no social network programs. There was no unemployment. There was no social security. These people worked the sweat off their brow, and they collected their pennies. And then they put these pennies in a box. And then that box became a treasure. And they would go and buy their first piece of land. Or they would buy a used church. And they would call a priest to come from the old country. And if one could not come, they would request Saint Raphael to ordain one of their own who had a good voice and who knew the services. Well, I began studying these lives in the past while, working on this Honor Wall project. And I have to tell you that I found some of the most brilliant churchmen who would, I mean, you have to imagine, they had meager salaries. They had the vicissitudes of language and culture and climate. Yet what was the beauty was their celebrations of the mysteries, the celebrations of the liturgy. And guess what else they did? They wrote plays. And they would have the young people, in order to attract the young people, they would have the young people to participate in their funny plays that they wrote. They did everything they could to attract the young people to the church. Our archdiocese was the first to use English. And these priests struggled in the use of English. Struggled in use of English. But guess what? They overcame. They did. They built. They planted the seeds of Antiochian orthodoxy on this continent. They brought the Antiochian spirituality to this country. And the center of that spirituality are the sacred services. In many places they would celebrate, if there was no priest, they still would do the matins and the vespers. But when a priest came, and they endured great hardship with large families, and boards of trustees that felt empowered once they began to organize their churches, order these priests around to tell them what to do, what they could do and they couldn't do. But these priests endured. They stayed the course. And they built this archdiocese, and they built this church. And one of the great joys that I've had in doing this project is that I've been able to reach out and meet some of their grandchildren and their great-grandchildren. And when I call them on the telephone, it's like I'm catching up with a relative that I hadn't seen in quite a while, or spoken to in quite a while. And we reminisce about the old days, how it was we were as a community, because we began as communities. And it's what knitted our church together. And these men of God, these priests, some of them with hardly any education, but they knew the church services. They planted the seeds of Antiochian orthodoxy on this continent with the simplicity of their faith and their love in their heart and the energy that they placed in order to keep the community and the young people together and to build the church that we now have inherited. I salute them. I pray for them. And I know that they have a special place in heaven for the missionary endeavors. When you read their lives and how they traveled all over North America and what they built and what they left behind, these truly are Antiochian heroes in North America.